In today's video, I'm going to talk about how 8 and 9-figure brands are scaling with hyper-specific customer avatars. I'm going to explain what that means in just a second, but just so you know that I'm qualified to speak about the topic, this is just one of our own clients that just yesterday alone did over $80,000 in sales. Just so you see the live dashboard over here, $80,000, $82,000 in sales to be specific. Let me refresh so you know this is real. We are not saying that this is just only due to our efforts. Of course, this company is also working with other people, their own employees, but we were part of their meta strategy and their client acquisition strategy, specifically e-com wise, right? So this being said, let's get right into the video. I'm going to talk about a couple different things. Old way versus new way. Okay, so first of all, I want to say, and I'm not saying, by the way, that this is the wrong way of doing ecom necessarily. I'm just sharing what most 8 and 9-figure brands are gradually getting into with also proof. I'm going to show you a live example of a company doing $5 to $6 million a month, actually, and they're doing this exact same approach that I'm about to explain. But either way, what most companies do is that they go after red ocean markets, and let me quickly explain what I mean. For example, in like the health and wellness space, it's becoming 100 times more saturated and competitive compared to maybe 5-10 years ago. And so what this and by the way, the health and wellness space is just an example of an industry. But what most industries, what's happening is that what most industries are getting into is that you're basically promoting a product into such a red ocean saturated market that consumers are seeing your product just like any other product, right? Especially the way that you're positioning it. So what tends to happen is that you go after, this is basically you with a bunch of other people that just like that look and feel just like you, including their marketing message, and they're going after like $150 billion market. Also, what happens is that most of the ads that I see of low 7-figure brands are typically quite broad and don't have a specific messaging to one specific type of person. And also the offers is broad, meaning that it's essentially a broad offer to multiple types of personas and people. So the level of personalization is not really high. So what tends to happen, right? And by the way, you can stop through the video and read the text if you want. But what tends to happen is that you go after a broad funnel, which doesn't necessarily mean that you can't like scale or anything. It's just kind of harder with time to scale because you're not positioning your product in a unique way to a specific type of person. So you go after like a $50 billion market and you're attracting a lot of people because it's a broad funnel. But what tends to happen is that your funnel conversion rates typically tend to go on the lower end, right? Not every single time, but in most cases, because there's a big drop off. And so, you're attracting too many people and you're sending them in a space or in a place where it doesn't maybe resonate as much to them, right? And so let me talk about this new way of doing things, which is the avatar approach, where instead of going after a red ocean market, first of all, we do research and we try to understand where the gaps in the market are. If everybody's promoting to this red ocean, what can we do? What type of market can we go after that is more of a blue ocean offer or market where it's less saturated and we are maybe 1 in 3 or 1 in 10 in advertising with this angle, or it's like it's saturated in a way where not a lot of people are leveraging or positioning the product in a specific way to a specific group of people, right? So we leverage our research capabilities to find market gaps, right? So we are first comers in the market, right? And then we position our product in a way that it's a blue ocean approach where we don't have a lot of competition, and also our ads are very specific to this type of persona. And by the way, I have examples of broad versus more specific avatars in just a second, so stick until the end. And once we go after specific ads to a specific type of avatar, we also eventually, once the avatar is profitable and proven and ready to go, we personalize the entire funnel so that the entire process from step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, how many steps you have, from ad to advertorial to offer to naming convention, is fully optimized to one specific type of persona. So what tends to happen is instead of having a funnel that goes from like attracting everybody and converting nobody, we get it into a process where the TAM and the addressable market is maybe 2 billion people, right? $2 billion instead of 50, still big enough, right? Where we can scale, but small enough where they can actually see that we're only promoting to them into a specific group of people. And by the way, this could have been 10, could have been 2. I'm going to dive deeper into some examples in just a second over here. As you can see, there's a bunch of examples that I want to show you. But just to go over the video, what tends to happen when you have a more targeted funnel is that people stay, right? The conversion rates tend to be a lot higher because everything is so personalized. An example here of what the funnel that I just explained, right, where it's more of like a specific, like smaller target market with still a big TAM, but it's still specific with specific ads and a specific sales process, is a company called Hype Footwear. This is just an example, right, where we take a look at one of their ads, right? Where is it? If I could find it. One of their ads is promoting specifically to, where is it? I can't find it anymore. was oh yeah, it's over here, to women, right? So the walking solution for women over 60, right? This is a completely different avatar, right? And it's like for females, instead of this avatar over here, if you can see it, where like the imagery is of men, right? And so if we take a look at where they're sending traffic to over here, if we click on the ad, they're obviously sending traffic to a page that only has women, 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 women. It's all for women. And so the entire sales process is optimized for this type of persona. If we take a look at another example, right, if we scroll on the top, right, another angle or persona, right, foot pain, it's time to part ways. Here it's like a foot pain angle, right? 5 reasons why to buy these shoes. Walking, the most overlooked weight loss tool. So here we're talking about weight loss, which is a completely different persona or angle compared to like foot pain. And so if we click on this advertorial, it's going to the same ad, but it's probably because it's still for women, right? So I didn't prepare like different funnels to show you maybe on this call. But long story short, they're targeting different avatars and sending them to the right place, right? So that it resonates with them, right? So I'm going to show you some examples over here in just a second, but this is the idea. So let's go over like broad versus specific avatars, and let's also kind of like prove the research of the addressable market. Let me explain what I mean by that. We don't want to go too specific where the addressable market is like 300 people in the US. We want to go specific but broad enough so that we can still scale to $1 million a month for one specific avatar. Meaning that if we just take 1% of the market, it gets us to at least $1 million a month. That's the TAM size, the addressable market size that we want to go after. So example here, broad persona, people who want to shave their pubic hair, and the product would be like a trimmer or a shaver. A specific persona would be a curvy woman who comes from razors or waxing. In this case, we chose like razors, right, blades, and are tired of seeing razor bumps, cuts, and irritations. So this is a specific type of persona. In fact, to validate that, we want to go after curvy women, so probably overweight women. So one research that we can do is go over here and say, hey, number of overweight women in the US, right? And do some sort of research. And so over 70 million adults in the US are obese, 35 million men, 35 million were women, 99 million are overweight, of which 45 million are women. So we technically have a 45 million kind of like addressable market. And of course, we cannot assume that all of them are using the razor, right? But many do. And so we can maybe assume, let's say 50% of these people, so 20 million people, 20 million times a razor that is around, say, $70, or let's just say that not a razor, like a trimmer, which is our product. That is basically a $1.4 billion market. So if we get 1% of that, that's $1.4 million in a month, right? I don't know what that is, but it's basically, it's like over, it's, I think it's like $14 million a year, just one avatar. So this is the type of kind of like addressable market calculation that we want to go after. Here is another example of a good persona. By the way, I'm not sure what happened here. But another persona, broad persona, is people who have just foot pain. Very kind of broad. An example of a specific avatar is nurses who deal with foot pain during their jobs due to long hours on their feet just standing. So, and the product would be like an orthopedic shoe, right? Which could technically be also an avatar for them, actually. Hike Footwear, the company that I just showed you. And so another thing that we can say here is how many nurses are there in the US? Probably around 4 or 5 million, right? Just to say 5 million times $120 shoe, which is probably a good price for a good quality shoe, is 600 million. So this is maybe a bit capped, right? So maybe instead of just doing US, right, because this was just in US, we expand also and go after UK market, and which gives us a higher opportunity, right? And so this can also give you an idea. And by the way, it doesn't mean that every single avatar that you go after has to do $2 million a month. Some avatars are going to scale to 200K a month, 300K a month, and others are going to add more to your top line revenue. So these are just some examples so you understand the difference between super broad, where we're targeting everybody and resonating with nobody, versus specific, right? Another example is broad persona, people who want to get rid of fat. Very kind of broad. The specific avatar persona would be a woman post-pregnancy who wants to get back on track with their body and wants to lose fat. That is a lot more specific, right? But still a big addressable market. In fact, we're promoting a fat slimmer product, fat slimming product, call it whatever you want. Let's go and test the avatar to see if the addressable market makes sense. So we would go over here and say, how many women get pregnant each year in the USA? I can't spell. 5.4 million approximately. We can also say, for example, that, okay, how many women deal with overweight after pregnancy? 68% being overweight or obese 1 year postpartum. Okay, so we're gonna say around 50% of women, right? And I can't find it now, but I saw a survey or an article talking about women that are postpartum within the first 1 to 5 years of their babies. They are mostly over, like they are a lot more drastically to be like overweight because of the pregnancy that they had. So we can assume that if there's 5 million babies in a year, if we multiply that by 5, there's 25 million people that we can target on a yearly basis in the US. 25 million times, I don't know, $50 product or like a $70 product, that is $1.75 billion. 1% of that is $17 million, I believe, in a year from one avatar if we get 1% of the market, if I do the math right. So over $1 million a month. So you see how I'm getting somewhere here. Let's take one last example. Broad persona, people who wants to get rid of dark spots instead of just doing that. Although this is kind of already specific, if I have to be honest, but we can even go a bit more specific to resonate even on a deeper level with the market. This is maybe a bit too of a specific, this is not super broad because dark spots are like a specific issue, but we can go even more specific with like black or dark skinned women who have hyperpigmentation and whose skin is more sensitive to like ingrown hairs and bumps and more. So basically, even if they have like a little bump or like a pimple or some sort of thing on their a scratch, they basically are very sensitive, and it creates a dark spot, meaning that their skin becomes darker and it looks like it's like a bruise, or it's hyperpigmentation. And so I read an article talking about how women of color or women that have darker skin are way more prominent towards hyperpigmentation. And so we can do a study here and a research and say how many black women are there in the US? And there's probably around 21 million. And how many deal with hyperpigmentation? I already did that research just to save some time. It was like around 60%. All right, let me actually do it. How many black women deal with dark spots? I can't find it anymore. How many black women deal with dark spots? Over 65%. So 65% of 21 million is 13 million. So 14 million times what are we selling here? I forgot. A dark spot, like skincare, so $80 AOV. $80. That is 1.1512 billion, right? Market, addressable market. So you see how I'm doing the math here. If it was like 100 million or 50 million, not big enough. Okay, so this is how we're thinking about avatars. By the way, I'm not saying that this would absolutely this kind of more specific avatar will absolutely destroy this one. It's just more of positioning so that you can present personalized ads to a specific group of person where you still know that the addressable market is big enough to scale. That's what I mean. Okay, and so this is the vision, the overall vision that we want to recreate. And I show this diagram a lot in my videos, but eventually we have 1, 2, 3, 4, however many we want avatar funnels where we go after each avatar with different angles, right? With custom funnels, and eventually there's a ceiling here because we're going to reach a ceiling. And so the best way to improve the ceiling, of course, going from maybe from here to here, is of course maybe doing better ads. That's always going to be the case, better creative strategy, but also just scaling horizontally with different personas, which of course means that we're going after different markets, different market segments, different market gaps. You get the point, right? And so this is the vision to get to $5, $7, $10 million a month, ideally, with all custom funnels. And once again, this is pretty much what these companies, this company over here that I just showed you, they're doing 5, 6 million a month. And as you can see, if we go into the landing pages, we have all different types of listicles and advertorials. These are all different advertorials that they're sending traffic to based on a specific avatar, pain point, angle, marketing angle, because you can still have, once again, as I said over here, the same avatar, but with like 3 or 5 or 6 different angles, and then angle 6 blows up and it adds an extra 200K a month in top line revenue within the same avatar, right? So you get the point. You can scale in 2 ways with avatars, and within avatars you scale with angles. Now, before I end this video, I want to quickly state the importance of prioritization and how you should distribute, not how you should, how we distribute our time and how we leverage our resources in the best way. 80%, 20% rule. I spoke about this rule in my other videos as well, but essentially 80% of our time should go towards iterations, proven scripts, viral concepts, winning hooks. What is the goal here? To basically increase our ceiling so that we can scale a bit more. Now, this is not going to drastically get you from like $500,000 to like $3 million a month. No, but if you are good at creative strategy and doing winning concepts and replicating what's going viral and leveraging your iterations and winning scripts, then we can probably increase our ceiling. The 20% is where we leverage things like new angles, new avatars, new offers, new funnels, new things that we've never really tested or ideated ourselves within our experience, right? Within the brand. And so it's kind of like more this example. All this avatar approach, this custom funnels, everything that I just explained, this approach of scaling like this is risky. That's why it goes into the 20% bucket. 80% we spend on what is proven to work in the market. 20% and also within our brand, our scripts, our iterations, our winning ads, our winning hooks, our viral concepts, right? Maybe of direct competitors or brands that share a similar audience. 20% goes towards avatars, new angles, completely new creative concepts that we've never, or maybe don't have that proof, but we think could work, right? You get the point. That is it for this video. Hopefully you got some value from this video. Let me know if you want to actually connect with me or one of my team members. What we typically do is that you can book a call. You can explore the opportunity of working with us as growth partners to get to the $1, $3, $5, $10 million per month mark. That's typically the goals of our clients. Let me know. You can book a call down below. If that is not the case, that's fine. We'll see you maybe in the next video. Bye.